Welcome to my channel. My name's Chance, and guess what? I'm here to talk about some board games. Maybe I should find another hobby or something. I feel like all my videos have been on board games. You guys must be getting bored of this at this point. But I can't change things up right now because we're in the middle of a top 100, so I gotta get through this list. And today's video is gonna be on numbers 80 to 71, and I got some super interesting games in this section of my list. So maybe there's something you haven't heard of in here. Let's find out. Let's just dive into this and kick things off with my number 80. So 80 for me is going to be Tribes of the Wind. Now, I'm going to admit right away that this is a game that I saw it when it was originally announced and it was coming out, and it had some really good art. It looked like a nice production. There was an interesting mechanic with the hand management that I was like, oh, that seems neat. And then I fell victim to reviews, and I read some opinions and stuff, and I felt like this one was not received the best. It has people were like, it's a neat game with some flaws or whatever, and I was like, okay, I'll push that one off to the side. I don't need to buy it myself. Lucky me though, a friend found it at Barnes & Noble for super cheap, and he's managed to get at the table with me a couple times since then, and I am loving Tribes of the Wind. I think this is an underrated gem out there. And yeah, so let's talk about what is this game. So the core mechanism of this game is really around that hand management. Basically, the deck of cards, the suits are going to be on the back of the cards, so you see what suit everyone has in their hand of cards. And your cards are going to generally trigger off of the other cards in your hand or the cards in other players' hands. So maybe it'll say like you need to have 3 earth cards, right? There's like 4 suits or something like earth, fire, wind, water, pretty standard stuff. But maybe it'll say like, yeah, you need to have like 3 earth cards to be able to play this one, to be able to take that action. But other cards are going to be like, you need to have more fire cards than your neighbor, and you get to take one of the actions. Then if you have more fire cards than both your neighbors, you get to take the more powerful action on that card. And this is the part that I think is really engaging for me in the game. I like watching what other people are going for and seeing them, like if they're drawing fire cards, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to get rid of this other card because I'm not going to be able to trigger it if they keep drawing those fire cards. So I gotta kind of manage the cards that I'm drawing. And you have a little tableau every time you play a card. At the end of your turn, you're going to draw back up, and you get to see. You get a little bit of a selection of which cards you're going to be adding back to your hand. So like, do you want to shift strategies, try to go for wind this time, maybe go for water, so you can kind of change up your hand throughout those turns. So yeah, that by far, that little hand management puzzle is definitely my favorite part of the game. There is also a little spatial puzzle going on where you're going to be putting out these tiles, and everyone has their own little personal goal for what type of pattern they're going to build, and then you'll unlock like an asymmetric ability during the game. I feel like I'm throwing everything at this. Like, this game has a lot going on in it, but I would say it is actually pretty easy to play in a pretty streamlined little resource management, hand management, tiling patterning game. But yeah, so you're gonna put those tiles out on your board, then you have like these wind riders that you get movement points to move them onto the tiles, and then essentially once you have enough wind riders on a tile, you get to build a new tree city, you get to flip that tile over. And I would say a lot of this is around kind of, it's a bit of a point salad. Like, everything you're doing is just gonna get you some points, and you're kind of just trying to find your route to getting the most points possible. Generally not my favorite type of game, but Tribes of the Wind, I just feel like it's just unique. It just feels different than other games I've played, that I am excited to return to this one again. It is really a joy to play. Now, I will say that I think the things other reviewers have called out, and this happened to me, is that Tribes of the Wind has the risk of dead hands. Because remember, your hand's going to trigger off of your neighbor's tableau or their hand as well. And you can definitely be in a situation where you just have a hand of cards and you're like, well, I can't play that. I can't play that. This one doesn't really do much benefit for me. And you're just like, there's nothing I can do. But the designers built in a way for you to kind of burn through your hand of cards, and that's going to be this building temple mechanics. Now, I will say this is the part that doesn't always feel the greatest, because sometimes you're kind of forced into that. You're kind of like, oh, well, I have to build a temple because I have nothing else good to do. But those temple actions are actually pretty beneficial. So they actually give you a pretty nice benefit when you actually do take those temple actions. So it's not like a complete waste. It just, I think it just feels worse because it's not always your choice to build that temple. But there is like scoring strategy around the temple. So like I said, there's stuff built around that. It's just every now and again, you might feel like you get forced into building a temple, and That's not the greatest feeling of a game, but that's the only negative I have on this game, that I feel like just has an amazing production, amazing artwork, and a really, really fun hand management puzzle. Now, it's probably best at 3 and 4 players as well. I haven't checked out the rules for 2 players. I don't know how it's going to work, because it seems like you're going to want to have a neighbor on both sides of you to make the game work. But yeah, so I would right now give it the caveat that it's probably a 3 and 4 player game. But yeah, maybe they adjust it for 2. Okay, well, that was a lot said on Tribes of the Wind, and hopefully you can tell I'm already excited about this. Talking a lot about that, and man, we're moving into 79. Things are just going to get better from here on out. Number 79 for me is, it is almost Mad Max the board game, right? It has a very Mad Max style theme. I don't think they're trying to rip off the IP or anything like that, but yeah, Thunder Road Vendetta. Now, I got up here behind me the Maximum Chrome Edition, so I got the big box version of this, which I'm not going to lie, it does make this harder to table. I kind of wish I had the smaller box version, because that is just a lot easier to take out and take with you places and put out on the table. But Maximum Chrome comes with some really cool expansions that I've been having fun exploring. Mainly there's like I think it's called like Full Ammo or something, or the ammo expansion, and Chop Shop. Chop Shop is another good one. Everything else I haven't been like amazed with yet, but we'll see. Maybe in a future review talk about the other stuff. But what do I like about Thunder Road Vendetta? Well, this is just the chaotic racing game. Yeah, so this is in contrast to Heat. Heat is the very controlled, very precise, that hand management system, trying to get around that track and managing your speed. Yeah, very controlled racing game, whereas Thunder Road Vendetta is you are chucking some dice, you are assigning those dice to your cars, you're moving around the track, you're running into oil slicks, you're sliding around, you're hitting ramps, and you're more than likely hitting, maybe not intentionally, but I would say for me, definitely intentionally, hitting other cars, because then you're going to have the slam mechanic. When you hit another car, you get to roll the slam dice and a direction die, and that die is going to tell you which car gets shoved off to the side and which direction they're going to go, and then that can trigger a chain reaction slam, so you just keep rolling those dice and watch these cars bounce around this track until maybe they get thrown off the track or run into a wall and explode or something. Fun stuff like that. Then you also have some other things you get to play around with, like you have a little command board where you can place one of your die and do things like put your chopper out on the board, and then you can fire at people with the chopper, and you can also fire at people with your car as well if you're behind them. Lots of carnage, lots of chaos, and cars blowing up and people being eliminated. So that's really the only negative in this game, is that there is player elimination during the rounds, or during the game. But it's also what triggers the end game. So essentially, a player has to be eliminated before the finish line is revealed. Basically, you keep driving on this like conveyor belt of tracks that just keep on coming out until someone's eliminated, and then once that happens, the finish line just appears magically, and now there's a race for people to get across that finish line. And I think managing the cars on this, managing your movement, trying to debate on do you get your small car, your big car out, because there's different advantages and disadvantages to having those cars out on the board and out in the right positions and stuff. So yeah, it does have some decisions, but it is really just a chaotic, just beer and pretzels game that you can have out on the table. So Thunder Road Vendetta, I find it to just be a joy, little chaos, laughter, and disasters. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to number 78. Now, this is going to be one of the more unique ones. I've actually done a review of this game, so check that out if you're interested. And this is going to be Agent Avenue. So Agent Avenue is a fun little 2-player I Split You Choose game. So the theme is that you're both, you're a suburban spy, or you're a spy that's hiding out in a suburban neighborhood, and you start suspecting one of your neighbors to also be a suburban spy. That's going to be your opponent. Theme, yeah, it's not critical. It does. The production of the game though is good. I do like the art of the cards. I like the styling of it. It's good. I do like that, but I'm not gonna say like the theme is like it stands out in a big way. But the way the game is going to work is that you have the circular track out in front of you, and you have meeples on opposite sides of the board, and then essentially the active player, they're just going to play one card face down, one card face up, and then their opponent is going to choose one of their cards to add to their tableau. Then, based on the card they choose, that card's going to have a certain movement value on it. Maybe you're going to be collecting the same type of card, because that'll kind of boost your movement or change up how far you're going to move. There's also some other cards in there that if you get like 3 of the same cards, so you have like the code breaker. It's like the first card you get moves you 0 spaces, the second card moves you 0 spaces, but if you get a third code breaker, you win the game. Then you get kind of the opposite with the Daredevil. So like the Daredevil, I think, says like the first card you get, you move 2 spaces. The second card you get, you move 3 spaces. If you get a third Daredevil, nah, you're gone. You've been eliminated. So it brings out some really fun decisions in this I split you choose mechanic, because you're constantly changing. Like if someone puts out that code breaker face up, you're starting to wonder like, oh, what did you put face down? Like I want to know what that card is, because like that code breaker is super tempting. So is that card that's face down better than a code breaker? I don't believe you. So I'm taking the face down card, and then you get like garbage. You're like, ah, son of a gun. So I really love this double thing that comes up in Agent Avenue. I'm going to talk about another I Split You Choose game later on that's going to be way crunchier than this one, but this one is just I find it just be a very lighthearted, very entertaining I Split You Choose game. Then there's also an advanced mode that comes in the box, which has the black market deck, and you just flip the board over. Now if you land on a specific space on the board, you actually get to take a card from this little row of black market cards that'll give you either like an instant bonus, maybe it's something simple like move your pawn 1 space forward, or recruit the top agent from the deck, so kind of like a little random movement piece, or you just straight up change the victory conditions of the game. It'll be like, you know that Daredevil I mentioned where it says like when you get the third one, you lose the game? There's a card you can get that says, oh, you know what, if you get 3 Daredevils, you win the game. And that changes up the whole I Split You Choose puzzle for your opponent. They're like, oh, now I'm trying to stop you from getting Daredevils. Like, what do I do now? So yeah, a lot of good variability in this. I have played this like a dozen times so far, and I love it every single time, and I can't wait to play it more. So that was 78, Agent Avenue. Just a fantastic game. Let's move on to number 77. This one's going to be way weirder. This is going to be Shamans over here. So let me pitch you Shamans here. It is a trick taker hidden roll game. Did that grab you? Did I get your attention with that? So yeah, this is a weird one. This one is you are basically going to deal out rolls to each of the players at the beginning of the round, and you're either going to be a shadow or light or something. I forget the exact role names and stuff, but essentially one of you is the shadow player is trying to move this token up this board, up towards the moon to kind of like complete their evil ritual or whatever, and the light people are trying to stop the shadow from completing the ritual. So you end up with this, basically teams during the trick taker. If you're playing at 3 players, which is I think the min player count for 3 to 5, so 3 players, 1 player is going to be the shadow, 2 players are going to be the good people. Now it's only going to last for a round, because you're going to play multiple rounds of this game, and you're actually going to deal out new rolls each time. So you're not guaranteed to be locked into the shadow every round. Basically, each round, players are going to earn a number of points if they win it or whatever. There are some other ways to get points, but the end game is going to be triggered when 1 player gets to 8 points. So that's your goal. You're going to trade rolls, or you're going to deal out new rules, and you're just going to work towards that 8 points. But the way the game works is that if anyone plays offsuit, then essentially that little pawn on that shadow track is going to move up 1 space. Every time someone plays offsuit, that pawn is going to move up that track. So the shadow player basically wants to play offsuit. Now, unlike other trick takers, you don't have to follow the rule of you have to follow suit. So yeah, this is one where it's kind of like when someone breaks suit, when someone breaks the lead card, and they're like, I can't follow suit. Now you're instantly questioning that person, be like, wait, are you the shadow? Do you want that pawn to move forward? And then the player's probably like, no, I had to play offsuit. There was no other choice I had. And you're constantly just like, oh, okay, I'll trust you. And then they play a card later on that indicates that they could have played on suit previously, and you're like, aha, you're the shadow. You've been lying to me the whole time. So I like that mechanic in this game of just, it breaks the rules of the trick takers. It's a little mind bendy. And then there is another part of this where you have these side rituals on the board that are going to be completed over the course of the game. Basically, anytime someone plays offsuit, they get to slide a card into that side ritual, and once a trick is completed, you basically take all the cards left and you're going to slide those into whatever ritual they belong to. So each suit has its own ritual that it's going into, and then whoever completes the ritual will trigger that ritual. So this can also be one of those reasons to play offsuit, because if you have like the last card in that suit and you know you can complete that ritual, you might throw offsuit just to do that that action, because those actions can be super powerful. Like the main one that I'm going to call out is I think the ritual dagger, or the sacrifice or whatever, where as long as there's a way to get a token that has a dagger on it, and you can actually keep this secret from other players. If you have some luck on your side, you can get a token, keep it face down. No one will know you have a dagger. Everyone's going to accuse you of having a dagger. And then if you get lucky again, you can complete the ritual sacrifice, whatever, dagger, something or another, and you can target another player and kill them if you're eliminating them from the round and they are gone. If you're the light players and you manage to figure out who the shadow was and you take them out, light players win. They gain their points at the end of the round, and then you deal out another one. So that part is really fun. And then there is some super interesting meta that kind of comes out of this game, because like I said, you're going for 8 points at the end of the game. And you can be in the situation where maybe you're on the team with someone else that if you win the round with them, you know they're going to win the game. And now you're incentivized to be like, well, I mean, I want to win this round, so I want to use you to my advantage, but I might actually get that dagger and kill my teammate so they don't get any points for the round. So yeah, I just find it super entertaining how that end game can kind of play out, with where, yeah, you're still on teams, but you might actually be trying to stop someone else from taking the victory and ending the game. So Shamans, now I do need to call out this is one of those games that I personally, like, I love it. I love the concept of this. I love playing it. People I play it with, though, I don't have a group that really loves it as much as I do. I think I have one other person that like really enjoys Shamans, and everyone else is just kind of like, we'll play it, I guess. So yeah, I don't have it doesn't have the best reception. So I got to call that out. If you're interested in it, I recommend checking out the rules and deciding if that's going to land with your group or not. Like if you're looking for a pure trick taker, Shamans is not it. But if you're looking for something unique and just different, and that whole phrase of trick taking plus hit and roll caught your attention, yeah, maybe go and check Shamans out. Okay, now let's move on to my number 76, and this is going to be the other one to my left here, and this is Polynesia. So Polynesia is a game that I picked up because of the designer, Pierre Sylvester. We're going to hear about him again later on in this list, because I think this guy is a genius. Like, what he does, the games he designs are, oh man, they hurt my head. Like, they are brain burners, basically. And no different here with Polynesia. So he calls it out in the rule book that this is basically an abstract game. It has the set dressing of a archipelago or whatever. It does utilize the theme a little bit, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But essentially, your goal is to get your islanders, your people, your villagers, whatever, off the main island, because there's a volcano erupting there, and you want to get them out into the archipelago and go out and gather resources, and ideally get yourself some victory points in the process. So the way you're going to do this is you're going to be building these trade routes, or these shipping lanes, or you're going to put out these boats. Let's just go with that. You're going to put out these boats, and what's cool is that you actually build up your own economy during this. Well, I guess the economy for the other players, because when you put down a boat, you are going to pay for it with a certain resource. There's going to be fish or shells in the game, and when you pay to build that route, you are actually going to put a resource next to your boat and say that basically anyone that wants to cross this, or anyone that wants to build another boat here, has to pay me whatever, a seashell, if you put a seashell down. And yeah, that just makes it great, because you kind of are saying like, oh, I'm gonna get a monopoly on like seashells, or I'm gonna get a monopoly on fish, and like, yeah, you can kind of corner the market in that, and it's a really cool concept in this game. But I'm gonna say that the crux of this game is really the balance between moving your people off that main island and building those routes. Because yeah, you're like the primary goal is for you to get your villagers off of that main island so they can survive the volcano eruption. And there's ways that so every round is going to be, it's about 3 action turns long. So every round you get 3 actions. The first action has a value of 3, the second action has a value of 2, the third action has a value of 1. So you're going to do these in turn order, and basically that will change the cost or the benefit of whatever action you choose to take. So in round 1, let's say that you want to build a route with one of your boats. That is going to cost you 3 of 1 resource. So it'll cost you 3 shells. Like, that is going to be a boatload of money. That's a very expensive route to build. But if you decide to move your villagers in round 1, you get 3 movement points. That's fantastic. Moving 3 people or moving 3 times, that is great. Now let's go on to that third round where I said it had a value of 1. That means that if you want to build a route with one of your boats, it's going to cost you 1 resource. And if you want to move people, you only get 1 movement point. So you have this change in the trade-off over the course of each one of those turns during a round. You have to decide, like, is it worth it to build a trade route early on? And the game really does incentivize you to do those things, because you can actually take over kind of some of those trade routes, make it a little more expensive for other players. But there's a mechanic where if someone wants to move off an island and you have a trade route on there, they can actually take one of your meeples with them and use them as a guide to get over to the other island. So basically, if you manage to set up your routes properly, you may not need to move your people, and you could just let the other players take your meeples or your villagers along with them and move them out to the archipelago. So yeah, it has this just great balance between when you build your trade routes, when you move your people, when you put them out onto the island, because you got to get them out of your village and onto the board. So it just is it's a really, really good abstract puzzle. Now, I will call out that I don't have a lot of abstract games in my top 100, because generally, like abstract games, I enjoy them, like Azul and Hive. I have a good time with them, but they're not my go-to games. So how did Polynesia end up here? Well, if you've been following me at all, you know that I like some chaos in my life, and Polynesia definitely adds a little bit of chaos to this abstract game, because there is going to be a certain number of rounds, and those number of rounds are going to be determined by a bag draw from the volcano bag. Basically, once you draw a certain number of red cubes, the game is over. So you're going to do those 3 turns each round, and then there's like a little upkeep phase where you're going to draw these cubes from the bag and determine if that volcano has erupted yet or not. And the game, if you do the math, it can last somewhere between 5 and 9 rounds. So this is probably going to drive some people crazy, like hearing that. It's like, wait, you're doing an abstract game and you don't know when it's going to end. Like, that's crazy. But I think it does such a good job of just keeping tension and keeping people on their toes and keeping people moving off that island, because you see, like, in those earlier rounds, you see what's drawn, and maybe you run into that situation, you're like, ooh, we're in the situation where if we draw cubes, we could end in round 5. Like, I gotta speed things up, I gotta make some choices, just do whatever I can to make sure I end up with some points in the game. And then it goes on to round 6, and you're like, oh, I'm not set up for round 6. I gotta like recover, maybe get one more person out there and get off that island again. So it kind of keeps that tension going. But then there's other times where it's gonna be like, oh, we're on round 6, and like we're still pretty safe. It doesn't look like this volcano is gonna erupt anytime soon. I can slow down, plan things out, maybe get some more routes built, and get that economy cornered a little bit, and pull back a little bit while we go on to maybe round 8, it looks like, and possibly round 9. So yeah, it has this interesting just tempo with that round structure and drawing from that bag. Now, the last thing that I have to call out that people may just hate, like I said, that maybe that random round thing you hate and you're like, okay, I'm out. If you're not out after that, you might be out after this one, because during that whole upkeep phase at the end of every round, the first player gets to make a choice. This is the greatest choice in any board game. I love this choice so much. I was so happy when I read this rule. Basically, that first player, they get to choose a resource. Remember, there are 2 resources. You got fish and seashells. They get to choose a resource that all players have to return to the supply. They all lose that resource. If they say fish, everyone now has 0 fish going into that next round. So as a player, you are watching that first player. Whoever has that first player token, you are watching what resource they're collecting. If they're going heavy on seashells, you're like, I don't want to have any fish anymore, because they're going to say we're getting rid of fish. They're going to keep all the seashells, so I'm now collecting seashells. So you're keeping an eagle eye on that first player, paying attention to what their economy is, because they're going to be setting up that economy for the next round. They're choosing what people are carrying over into that next round. We had a situation where one of my friends, they had like 15 fish, and this was a lot. It was like, how did you get that many fish? And he was like, I don't know how this happened, guys. I don't know how I ended up in this situation. And the first player was like, I gotta choose a resource. And that guy was just like, yeah, I should probably just start moving these back to the supply, shouldn't I? First player, yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, we just wiped out his entire fish supply. So yeah, this is something I feel like this is a great little abstract puzzle with just some of those random elements that keep me excited to return to this. It's not just like solve from turn 0 type of thing. This is a joy for me to play. So if you can't tell, yeah, I really like Polynesia, and I'm excited to return to this one. Okay, let's move on to my number 75. And this one is going to be a 2-player co-op game called Jekyll and Hyde vs. Scotland Yard. This is the second trick taker of this video. But this is, so I will call out that this would probably be way higher on my list if I did this video like I don't know, 8 or 9 months ago. But at this point, I've worked through all the scenarios in Jekyll and Hyde with a friend, and so we're basically done with the game. I haven't played it in quite a while now, so it's slowly working its way out of my top 100. But for now, I'm excited that it's still in there, so I get to talk about it because this is an amazing two-player trick taker. I'm going to talk about another one later, and that is still higher on my list, but this one, I would say the intro to it, not great. Like the first three chapters of the game, I didn't really care for. It was like, this is a little too easy. Like, what are we doing here? Like this game doesn't seem like there's a lot here. I feel like they started off a little too slow because once we got to chapter like 4, I believe it was, and I think it goes to 12 chapters. Yeah, 4 to 10 was probably like the sweet spot in the game. I think in 11 and 12 they got so ridiculously hard that there was such a big luck factor once we got to that point that the game became very, very difficult to win. So yeah, I don't even know if we ever beat chapter 12. We played chapter 12 probably like 20 or 30 times, and we're just like, okay, we're gonna call it. Like, we know what we're doing. We just have to get lucky with the card draw. So yeah, I would say 4 to 10 was definitely the sweet spot in this game. And the way this trick taking works is I love it. So there are 3 suits in the game. You got whatever, red, blue, and black. It's like fear and aggression and something else. I can't remember the names of those things, but when you play this game, the first time you play a color out, so the first color you play out, you place out this little color token on this color hierarchy track. And that now dictates how strong that color is going to be for the round. Now, the next color that comes out, it goes in that second spot in the color hierarchy track. So let's say you played black and you got that one in the lowest, and then you got red out. So now red will beat any black card. Like, just that's how it works. Trick Taker is kind of like red is now a trump for black. But then the third color that comes out, that's going to be blue. So blue is going to the top of that hierarchy track. That means blue is the trump of trumps. It wins all the time. So blue now wins against any black card and any red card. So this color hierarchy system changes up the trump mechanic in trick taking, and I think this is just another work of genius in this game. Like, it is just a phenomenal little design. Now, there are some other cards in there. They're going to be potion cards that allow you to trigger some special abilities, and one of those is actually reordering the color hierarchy. So during the game, if you're like, oh, we really need to change things up so we can win some more tricks, you can actually play that potion if you trigger things right, because that potion is going to actually trigger off of, I think, the next color card played. So if you get things set up right, you can trigger it and change that color hierarchy and set yourselves up to have better hands for the rest of the round, which is really good. Now, the way this works, though, as the co-op game is that you and your partner are playing against Scotland Yard. Scotland Yard, so you're represented by this little token on like this little linear track, and basically, there's movement conditions. Basically, if Scotland Yard wins tricks, they're gonna move. If you and your partner win tricks, you're gonna move I think like the equal number of tricks that you get. So you're trying to stay pretty even with your partner. And essentially, there's just some movement rules. And if Scotland Yard ever catches your spot or passes you, you guys lose the round. So they're pretty easy once you get into the rules. But the way Scotland Yard works is that it is going to have a deck of cards that you're just going to flip over the top card and it's going to play it into the trick. And Scotland Yard can then win tricks that way, and and that's that's going to be potentially bad for you. But the way Scotland Yard's deck is set up is that at the beginning of the game, both you and your partner are going to look at your hand, and you're both going to take 4 cards and put them into Scotland Yard's deck. That's how Scotland Yard's deck is defined, is that you and your partner both submit half of the cards that are going into Scotland Yard's trick-taking deck. And that choice, as you get into kind of the meta of this game and you start to play it more and start to understand the structure of it, like making that choice of which 4 cards to throw in, it is such a good, crunchy decision in a trick-taker, and I absolutely love it. So yeah, Jekyll and Hyde, it gets just big thumbs up from me for a co-op trick taker. If you have not tried this one out and you do like trick takers and you have someone else to play it with, this one is definitely worth checking out. Like I said, 1 through 3, not the most exciting. Once you get into 4, then it's good. I've also done a review of this one, and I do want to mention that I called out in that review that I think Chapter 8's broken, so just know that going into it. I'm almost certain there's a rules area. I'm trying to get it clarified in BGG, but essentially Chapter 8 is after I did the math on it, it's basically impossible. There's one route to victory, and I'm pretty sure there's a missed rule in Chapter 8. Okay, with that being said, now let's move on to number 74. Ooh, we got another good one here. This is going to be Wandering Towers off to my right here. I recently had a video, I think I called it like Cardboard Space Adventures or something, on one of my hot takes talking about some space-based games. One of those games was Gravwell, and Gravwell used to be kind of like my favorite little chaotic race game. Well, besides Max or Thunder Road Vendetta, of course, right? But I would say that one was just a little more chaos, a little faster to play, played up to 6 players, a really good time. Wandering Towers also plays up to 6 players, and I think it replaces Gravwell for me because I kind of enjoy it. It has a little less chaos, but it adds a new element to it that I think I enjoy more, and I think it has landed with more people than Gravwell has for me. Gravwell has a little bit of fiddliness to it that can be a little bit annoying, where I think Wandering Towers is very streamlined and runs very smoothly, and it is an easy game to teach, an easy game to table. Also, production's great. I love the towers in this. But the way the game's going to work is that player's going to have a hand of 3 cards, and basically those cards are going to say like you're going to move a wizard or you're going to move a tower. Basically on your turn, you're just going to play one of those cards and move the corresponding element that many spaces. What's cool is that those towers, you can actually move like an entire stack of the towers, and they basically like float on over. You're being a wizard and like making them move and float on over around the track. And the cool part is that if you play the right card, you can cover up other people's wizards, and potentially your own, not that you would want to, but other people's wizards with that tower. This adds in a little bit of a memory element because players need to remember where is their wizard on the board, because they're going to have to move towers eventually, and they're going to want to reveal their wizards. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I am absolutely terrible at this. I cannot remember for the life of me where any of my wizards are, and it drives me absolutely insane. But I have so much fun playing this game that I don't even care. So yeah, it's just a nice little chaotic race game with that memory element, and players just having a great time doing it. And I will call out that so basically your goal is to get all your wizards into the special Raven's Tower. It's like a little bucket that if you fall in, or you make it to, you just fall into and you go into it. But the other thing you have to achieve before you get all your wizards into Raven's Tower is you got to fill up all your potion bottles. The only way to fill up a potion is by covering up someone's wizard with a tower. So the game incentivizes you to do that. It's just part of the structure of the game. And yeah, it is just it's a really good time. Like I'm blown away by Wandering Towers. I really enjoy it. Can't wait to get it back to the table again. A nice light one that I think it takes maybe like 30 minutes to play, and it plays pretty quickly. I've played it I think from 3 to 6 so far, and it's been great every time I played it. Okay, let's move on to number 73, and this is going to be Ironwood. Ironwood is a 2-player head-to-head asymmetric kind of war game-ish type of thing. It's really a card game with some pieces on the map. So one player is going to play as like the forest people. I forget the names of these people here, but it's kind of like, it's the Ferngully thing, right? You got the machine faction, you got the nature faction. They're fighting each other. Defenders of the Wild all over again, right? You got the machine faction and the nature faction. Okay, so yeah, one person's going to play as like the nature faction, the woods people or whatever, and they have their victory condition. They're trying to go out and like save the magic of the land and collect these totems and remove them from the map. Basically, they have to go to the inner forest and collect the totems, then try to escape with them to the edge of the map to save the magic of the land. Whereas the person playing as the machine faction or whatever, or the mining faction, they are trying to mine for the resources, just take out the resources from the earth and the mountains and destroy the land and build up their towers, their little construction towers or whatever. And I think they're trying to achieve, three new bases being built on the map. So straightforward victory conditions. I love it. I love it when games have straightforward victory conditions. But the asymmetry in this game it's really good. So Mindclash did a great job with this. It has a really this has a really nice production. I love the contrast between like the wooden pieces for the Woodlands player and the metal pieces for the factory faction player or whatever. And yeah, so the factory person, they have a little mine thing that they're going to be moving around. They're going to be collecting these little gem tokens, which is going to be used to power up some of their cards and do some of their like building actions and stuff. But the woodland person can go in and like raid them and take those resources, because essentially they don't really have the ability to generate those gems on their own. They need they get them a little bit, but for the most part they're going to gain them by raiding the towns and stuff of the factory faction. I should really figure out the names, just I feel like just calling them whatever I want off the top of my head, but whatever, you guys get the gist of it, right? But overall, I really like the card play in this. So you have like a base set of cards that you always have in your hand. It reminds me a little bit of like Star Wars Rebellion, if you've ever played that one. Basically, you have these cards that if you play them, they're always going to return to your hand, so you're always going to have access to those actions. It's kind of like having a little base set of actions for your faction, but then you're also going to be drawing up some other cards during the game, and those other cards have some really fun abilities on them. It's going to be, I don't know, things like recruiting and moving and building, and then the battles are going to be interesting when you actually trigger a battle. So neither of you are actually in the same space as each other. You're just going to be adjacent to them. So like the factory person, you're playing in like the valleys and the mountains, whereas the woodlands person is playing in the forest zones. But if you're adjacent to them, you can trigger an attack, and then you're both going to play like a card face down and reveal it. And I love that mechanic in games. It's like, you know, it's like playing war, but you actually get to choose what card you're putting down. And then there's going to be a certain amount of like defense that you have and attack, and the battles resolve pretty seamlessly once you wrap your head around them. I would say they're a little weird at first, but once you figure it out, you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. But overall, this is a really solid head-to-head experience. I would say that the rules are the game feels bigger than it is. So I would say that the rules were a little bit intimidating at the start, but once we got into the flow of the game, it was like, oh, this all makes sense. And yeah, so Ironwood is it's a two-player game that I'm excited to return to. It's a really good one that I'm very engaged with it. I feel like the card playing is interesting, managing the combat, saving those cards for combat, like prepping for that, because sometimes like your better cards that have actions on them are also really good in combat, so you might want to save those just in case you get attacked or something. But yeah, another one that I enjoy and that I am excited to return to. Okay, let's move on to my number 72, and this is going to be Slambo. Yeah. So I recently did a review of this, and I actually did a correction for this as well as a short, because originally I said like, oh, this seems like it's only a two-player game. It says it plays 2 to 4, but there's like a variant for 3 and 4 players, and I was like, I don't really know why I'd play this variant. I played the variant, and I was like, holy crap, this game's amazing. Like I think I might like it more at 3 players. So Slambo is a very simple game, really easy to teach. Basically, you are going to have a card in the center of the table. It starts at a 5, and then players are going to have a hand of cards, and those cards are going to be numbered between like -7 and +8. And basically on your turn, you're just going to play a card, and you're going to do that math and say, like if you play a -4, you're going to do 5 -4, and you're going to say 1. Basically, that is now the new position of the sumo wrestlers in the ring. Then the other player is going to respond. Maybe they play a 7, and they're going to say 8. And then you're going to respond with a -5, and you're going to say 3. And then essentially this is just going to go back and forth, and your goal is to stay between 0 and 10. Once one player is forced out of the ring, so once someone has to play a card and it goes below 0 or above 10, the opponent yells Slambo, and that player loses the round and they have to take a shame card. Now the match can end in a draw, and basically when it does, you just add another a shame card to that shame card pile, and basically the next round is going to be worth 2 shame, and then it'll continue. If you tie again, next round's worth 3 shame. But eventually someone's going to lose, because there is definitely there is a luck element to this, but I would say my friend would tell me that I'm completely wrong about that, because I seem to always lose Slambo. I never win Slambo, and it seems like if this game was totally luck-based, like a monkey should be able to win it, and I seem to be worse at it than a monkey. Yeah, you know, I called out that I was bad at Wandering Coward. Maybe I'm not good at board games. I'm just now realizing that. That's a little disheartening. So moving on, so Slambo for the 3 and 4 player variant adds in like these special cards that are going to do things like, it has like a reverse card, it has an equals card, it has a card that can be a plus or a minus. So just some really simple rules to add on to that 3 and 4 player experience. And I would say this game feels like playing Uno, but it's actually fun to play. And I'll mention that All Player responded to my short video and said like, yeah, this is kind of how we pitched it, Uno for gamers. And I would say that is a very accurate pitch, and it's just, yeah, it is funny, it is entertaining, it's quick. That's probably like one of the best parts about it. I love pulling this game out at the end of the night and just getting a game of Slambo. Like maybe if we just played a brain burner, it's like, okay, we need to cool down, let's pull out Slambo. So Slambo definitely gets a recommendation from me, and also super cheap. Like I think I picked this copy up for like $10 at my local game shop. Yeah, so that's gonna do it for 72 Slambo. Ooh, now let's move into 71. 71's another unique game, well, unique to me, and this is going to be Decorum. So the way that I'm going to pitch Decorum, man, I had some weird games in this one. Pitching an abstract with chaos, pitching a trick taker with hidden rolls. Yeah, so interesting set going on here. So Decorum, though, let's get back to the topic at hand. This is basically a role-playing deduction game. That's the best way I can describe it. Now, if you're looking for just a great deduction game, there's other ones out there. I played some Turing Machine on BGA. I have another one coming up later on my list. I'll tell you what it is. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but search for Planet X. Phenomenal deduction game. Like if you're looking for deduction, yeah, maybe don't choose Decorum, because I don't think Decorum is a great deduction game. But man, it is a great game. So in Decorum, I've only played it at 2 players. There is, I think, a 3 and 4 player variant. It seems like that would be just impossible, though. I don't know. I want to try it to see what happens, but it just seems like that would be insane chaos. I do like chaos, but that might be too much chaos, even for me. But at 2 players, you both are dealt out like this roll card. Basically, you're taking a roll on this like relationship or roommate situation that you're dealing with, and the board is just 4 rooms out there. They're going to be painted different colors, and there's slots for 3 different objects in each room. Now, your card is going to have, you get a little backstory. You can kind of get into that role-playing aspect and read out your story and kind of get into that relationship that you're in. But your card mostly has like 4 or 5 conditions on it. Maybe it'll say like, oh, you don't want to have any antiques in the house, or you need to have 2 rooms being red and 2 rooms being yellow. So it's going to give you conditions that you would need to meet for you to be happy and satisfied with the home that you're living in. Then your opponent is also going to have conditions. So it's a scenario-driven game. So essentially that scenario is set up so your conditions align and you will be able to meet them. And then from there, your turns are super easy. You're either going to add or repaint a room or remove an object from a room. So maybe you're like, oh, I'm going to put an antique in the bathroom. And then your partner is going to say something like, oh, I love that. That's a beautiful antique in the bathroom. Or they're going to say, I hate that. That's very ugly. Don't put that in the bathroom. That doesn't belong in the bathroom. And then you're going to use that information to try and deduce what they are going for in the house. And this, like I said, this brings out that role-playing element. It's like living with someone else or being married and like trying to redecorate a room and going over and being like, oh, honey, how do you like this coffee table? And then being like, that coffee table is the ugliest coffee table I've ever seen. I don't ever want to see that again. Please don't show that to me. That is not going in our house. So that is the type of situation Decorum is trying to recreate, and I find it entertaining to kind of make light of that, some of those petty, difficult struggles that you can deal with in these relationships. Now, so you're going to be playing over a series of rounds. You're going to be trying to deduce what your partner's goals are by what they're putting in, what they're taking out, the feedback they're giving you with that simple either I like it or I hate it. And I would say it's near impossible to keep track of. There are a lot of goals to go for, and it's very difficult to keep track of these things. But over the course of the game, there's going to be these events that happen where it's going to be like you have a heart-to-heart. After like 20 turns, you're going to have your first heart-to-heart, and that just means you're both going to reveal one of the rules that you've been playing by. So you kind of narrow down the options. It's like, oh, that's why you've been taking the antique out of the bathroom. Oh, okay, I got it. So you can't have any antiques on like the left side of the house. That makes sense now. So we can work with that rule. And I would say the first 2, maybe 3 games, it seemed like I wasn't really deducing anything. I was like, this is just shots in the dark. I don't know what's going on. Now, on like the 4th and 5th game, I feel like we're finally getting in the flow of it. We're finally like starting to understand the puzzle a bit more. Maybe our brains have kind of reconfigured to be able to handle this decor puzzle going on. So yeah, now I feel like we're actually getting to that point where we're almost solving that deduction puzzle. We're usually making it to the end, we're solving it before we reach the end, before the timer runs out. So we are getting better at it. I think our last game though, we did lose. It was like, oh, we were so close. But it is a game that I felt like the first 2 or 3 times it was like, wow, I enjoy the role-playing part of it, but this deduction puzzle seems impossible. And then once we got into it a little bit more, it was like, this role-playing part is great. I'm starting to deduce this puzzle. Well, let's play this some more. So that is Decorum. It is a joy to play. But like I said, if you're not looking for an imperfect deduction game, like this is one where like there's nothing included in the game for you to take notes on. You're not going to be trying to solve the riddle or whatever going on with it. You are just lots of it for me is gut feel. I'm going to be honest. So it is a bit of a looser deduction game than a lot of the other deduction games I play. So if you aren't gonna like that style, you're not gonna like Decorum. But if you like that, if you have someone in your life that you think you'd enjoy playing that type of game with, yeah, I think Decorum is a fantastic design, and I can't wait to play the expansion. I'll be honest with you on that. So, okay, so that's going to do it for my 71 to 80. If you can't tell, I was super excited about these games. I think, like, I was looking at my top 100, and for some reason, some of my more interesting, unique games just kind of landed in this zone. So this video might be a little bit longer than other ones, but yeah, I think they were worthwhile talking about. Hopefully you found something interesting in this video. Let me know if you played these games and if you've enjoyed them just as much as I did, or maybe they've just fallen completely flat for you. So yeah, that'll do it for today. Thank you for watching. Thanks for spending your time with me, and I will talk to you next time.